The Beast and the Mark. What Revelation really says. Fear, mystery, and misunderstanding. Few biblical topics have generated as much fear, speculation, and controversy as the beast and the mark of the beast. For centuries, people have linked the mark to empires, microchips, currencies, governments, and modern technology. Yet, despite countless theories, many overlook what the book of Revelation itself actually says. Revelation is not merely a book of future predictions. It is a prophetic vision written in symbolic language, meant to reveal spiritual truths about power, loyalty, worship, and deception. To understand the beast and the mark, we must move beyond sensational headlines and return to the text itself. This video explores what Revelation really teaches, who the beast is, who the false prophet is, and what the mark of the beast represents according to Scripture. The nature of Revelation, a book of symbols. The book of Revelation opens with a warning and a clue. It is described as a revelation, not a code meant to confuse believers, but a message meant to unveil truth. At the same time, it uses apocalyptic imagery, beasts, horns, numbers, seals, and signs, symbols that would have been familiar to early Christians under Roman oppression. Revelation borrows heavily from the Old Testament, especially the books of Daniel, Ezekiel, and Isaiah. This means that the beast and the mark are not random inventions but part of a larger biblical pattern of symbolic storytelling. Understanding Revelation requires recognizing that symbols point to realities, not always literal forms. The first beast, power that demands worship. Revelation chapter 13 introduces the first beast rising out of the sea. It is described as having multiple heads and horns, resembling creatures from Daniel's visions. This beast receives power, authority, and a throne from the dragon, identified earlier as Satan. In the ancient world, this would have been understood as an empire that elevates itself above divine authority. For early Christians, the image clearly pointed to Rome, an empire that demanded loyalty, worship of the emperor, and obedience above conscience. The beast's defining trait is not violence alone, but blasphemy and false authority. It presents itself as unstoppable, deserving admiration and allegiance. The beast is the system of power that replaces God with human control. The wounded head, deception through imitation. One of the beast's heads appears to suffer a fatal wound, yet it is healed. This moment causes the world to marvel and follow the beast. This imagery mirrors the resurrection of Christ, suggesting a counterfeit salvation. The beast imitates divine power to deceive. Revelation consistently portrays evil not as openly monstrous, but as deceptively familiar, something that looks powerful, righteous, and inevitable. The healed wound represents the resilience of oppressive systems. Even when they collapse, they reemerge in new forms, convincing humanity that no alternative exists. The dragon behind the throne. Behind the beast stands the dragon, Satan, who gives it authority. Revelation makes clear that the ultimate struggle is not merely political or economic, but spiritual. The beast is a visible expression of an invisible conflict. Human systems become tools of a deeper rebellion against God. This reminds believers that evil often works through institutions, ideologies, and structures, not just individuals. The second beast, the false prophet. Revelation introduces a second beast, rising from the earth. Unlike the first, this beast appears gentle, described as having horns like a lamb. But it speaks like a dragon. This is the false prophet. Its role is not to rule directly, but to persuade. It uses signs, wonders, and deception to lead people into worshipping the first beast. It manipulates truth, performs counterfeit miracles, and reshapes belief. If the first beast represents oppressive power, the second represents corrupt religion, propaganda, and ideology. The false prophet blurs the line between truth and falsehood, making submission to the beast seem righteous, necessary, and even holy. The mark of the beast, meaning before method. The most feared element of Revelation 13 is the mark of the beast. According to Scripture, it is placed on the right hand or the forehead and is required to buy or sell. But before asking how the mark is applied, we must ask what it means. In the Bible, the hand symbolizes action and behavior. The forehead symbolizes thought, belief, and allegiance. In Deuteronomy, God commands His people to bind His law on their hands and foreheads, clearly symbolic language representing devotion in thought and action. The mark of the beast is a counterfeit covenant. It signifies loyalty, obedience, and participation in a system that opposes God. It is not merely a physical mark, but a spiritual alignment, economic control, and moral compromise. Revelation states that without the mark, people cannot buy or sell. This highlights how economic pressure is used to enforce allegiance. The beast does not only demand worship, it controls survival. This system forces humanity into a choice: compromise belief for security, or remain faithful at personal cost. The mark represents submission for convenience, safety, and prosperity. Throughout Scripture, God's people are tested through economic pressure, from Egypt to Babylon to Rome. Revelation shows this pattern reaching its final form. The number of the beast, 666 explained. Revelation identifies the mark with the number 666, calling it the number of a man. In biblical symbolism, the number 7 represents completeness and divine perfection. 6 falls short. Repeated 3 times, 666 represents ultimate imperfection, humanity exalting itself to divine status but never reaching it. Rather than pointing only to a name or code, 666 symbolizes human power attempting to replace God. It is the number of self-sufficiency, pride, and rebellion. The beast is humanity without God, organized, powerful, and spiritually empty. Those who refuse the mark. Revelation also shows those who refuse the mark. They are persecuted, excluded, and sometimes killed, but they remain faithful. These individuals are not portrayed as fearless heroes, but as witnesses. Their strength comes not from resistance alone, but from loyalty to Christ. What Revelation is not saying. Revelation does not encourage panic or obsession with identifying the mark in every new technology. It does not call believers to fear innovation or progress. Instead, it warns against unquestioned allegiance to any system that demands obedience at the expense of truth. At its core, Revelation is about worship. Every vision asks the same question: who do you serve? The beast demands worship through power. The false prophet demands worship through deception. God invites worship through truth and sacrifice. The mark of the beast is a visible sign of an invisible choice.